Honestly, who know how to use this? I guess I do, but boy, is it a struggle. Whew, substitution this year is insane, but today I'm gonna teach you the secrets of using that and maintaining your team's stamina to perfection. Energy this year in 2K is a game within a game. If you don't know how to manage it and you don't know what these numbers really mean, you're gonna end up in ugliness like this, and it's gonna end up hurting your performance dramatically in-game. The key to this year's game is to play high minutes while staying in high energy, and today I'm gonna teach you how. Now, before we get into that, for those of you who play my career, I got a huge service for you. My man here on Twitter handle at 2KMoneyJ, he will grind badges for you. Any badge, for a fee of course, but he will get it done for you. Hall of Fame badge, gold badges, whatever you want. If you want a badge done and you don't have the time for it like I do, go to my man at 2KMoneyJ, add him on Twitter, DM him, and ask him about prices. Let me tell you, his badge grinding service is top notch. He will get you Hall of Fame badges for sure. Alright? So, let's get back to the stamina. So, exactly before we begin, you need to know what energy actually means. So if you look at it here, the energy of Eddie Jones and Goran Dragic is at 100. So what does 100 mean, Sam? Well, take a look at Kyle Lowry. He is at 100 energy here. And you can see his turbo bar is completely filled. That means if you are at 100 energy, you have a 100 level turbo bar for you to be used. So as much turboing as possible. Now, in respect, if you look at Curry here again, his energy is at 71. But as you can see, his ratings stay the same. Unlike previous year, ratings don't go down when your energy is below 80. So Curry energy is a 71, and what that means essentially this year is that he has 70% left on his turbo bar. So watch the gray bar, because the blue is what I have left, the gray is what I have used. But the point is, you can see if you look at Curry's energy bar or turbo bar closely, you can see about 30% of it is gone. Like, I have no access to that 30%. Whatever is gone, I can't use it. So his turbo bar peaks at, I guess, 71. So when he has 71 energy left, that means he has 71% of his turbo bar left to be used for you. Now, obviously, if you don't manage this, it's gonna get way lower. So what's a point of no return, I guess? Well, it depends how much turbo you like to use. If you like to turbo a lot, maybe even 75 is too low. But the point of no return is under 66. This is because you can see Clay and Anthony Davis is at 66 here, but their ratings hasn't gone down. I have tested this. Once your energy level goes below 65, your rating starts to go down. So that's the point of no return, because not only are you having very little turbo bar to use, at the same time, your ratings are way down. So don't get lower than 66. You can't. You're gonna manage it that way. So then, the game within the game is to take whatever lineup you have, and you need to rotate them in a way with 8 to 9 guys, so that you can play your best players a lot without them going lower than 65. And at the same time, you need to figure out which wing players you like to use, so that you can play them in high minutes and their energy isn't too low, so you can still turbo with them. The minute you see here is on a 20-minute, so pretty much an online game. So for those you playing an online game, this is a good, measuring to go by. You want to play your best big, maybe 16 minutes, and try to play all your best wing players 15 to 14 minutes, and your bench guys around 9 to 10, 7, 9 minutes. And for those of you who play in 12-minute quarters, just see whatever minutes you see here today and multiply it by 2.4. That will equal to 12-minute quarter minutes. But yes, I will be showing you now a strategy of how I rotate so I can keep my players fresh, but at the same time play them as much minutes as possible. Alright? So in this strategy of mine, pretty much is an 8-man rotation setup, but about 11 players were used. Obviously, timeouts are what's gonna help, and calling the timeouts at the right time. So with this rotation and timeout strategy that I have, my main 8 guys played about 97% of available floor time, while all staying above 65 in energy. So that's essentially perfect. I used 11 guys, but those other 3 guys barely saw any floor time. They were just there to help my other guys rest as much as they can. So, first timeout. First quarter, after about 60% of the game has been played. I'm gonna talk in percentages instead of minutes, so then this will apply to players who play in 5-minute quarters and 12-minute quarters. So about after 60% of the first quarter has passed, you want to call a timeout. And if the other team calls a timeout around this time, perfect. So if they don't, you have to call it. But in this case, the Eastern Conference All-Stars, they did call it for me, so about 60% in the first quarter. And that's when you bring in your 2 top bench guys. So for me, my 2 top bench guys is Horry and Manu Ginobili. So you see, I bring them in and I replace them for Jalen Rose and Bob Lanier. So stamina is okay for now. Everybody's at 100, everybody is at 80, so it doesn't look like it hurts. So you're like, oh Sam, why are you taking out Jalen and Lanier when they're not tired? Well, the stamina thing, it adds up, right? So you need to prepare yourself for what's about to come. So trust me, 60% of the first quarter has passed. So about the 2-minute mark in 5-minute quarter games, bring in your top 2 bench guys and take out those 2 other starters. So I did just that. I took out Rose and Lanier for Manu and Ori. And that actually changes my game, so I'm in pace now. But the point is, then you play the other 3 starters with the top 2 bench guys the rest of the way. So play them, finish the quarter out. And you see, I have finished the quarter out here. We're up 16-7, that doesn't matter. So only 1 timeout was used. So in the first quarter, I try not to call any timeouts. If the other team calls it, great. If they don't, then I will call it at the 60% juncture. But doesn't matter, just call only one timeout. Call your 20-second timeout in the first quarter if the other team doesn't call one, because you get a new 20 in the second half. Anyways, in the first quarter, and you can see my starters are now at about, so Curry, Klay, and Anthony Davis were the starters that played the entire quarter, and you can see their energy level is around the high 70s and low 80, or pretty much high 70s. The 2 bench guys are fine, but at this point, this is when I take out my 3 starters. So Curry, Klay, and AD are gonna be taken out. And for those of you who play 12-minute quarters, the energy level goes down the same. So this is exactly the same. Doesn't matter how many minutes you play. And you see, I have put in my other bench guys, which happens to be Dragic, Eddie Jones, and Robert Horry, Manu Ginobili, 4 bench guys. But you see, Bob Lanier is back. He was the first starter I took out at around the 60% juncture of the first quarter, and he is coming back. So this is important. This is the starter guy that plays with the other 4 bench guys at the start of the second quarter. So you got to choose this guy carefully. So someone who can pretty much carry the team with 4 bench guys, that's up to you. But for me, that man is Bob Lanier. So he's back. And this juncture is the dangerous juncture for what I consider. So I like to call a lot of money plays, because it's just 1 starter, 4 bench guys, and that starter is going to lead them. He's going to play well, because these 5, the 4 bench and the 1 starter, to me, they're going to play the first 40% of the second quarter, and Lanier is just carrying. But this is by design, because I designed it that way. And around the 40% juncture, you once again want to call a timeout. If the other guy calls it, great. If they don't, you call it. But around the 40% juncture of the second quarter of you playing your 4 bench guys and the 1 starter, call a timeout. Alright? So once that timeout is called, as you can see, if you look at the Curry and Klay, they're back in the low 80s again, so that's a good sign. Jalen Rose is already at a 94, so that's great, because he's the kind of the hybrid starter guy that I just take in and out, so it doesn't really matter with Jalen. But you can see Anthony Davis once again is back to 84. So that's really good news. Everybody is well rested, so now I don't have to play the 4 bench guys with Lanier anymore. I can bring back in some of the starters, and you see I have chose to bring back Jalen and AD. But since Lanier was playing well in this game, I decided to keep him in. But everybody is in the low 90s and mid 80s here, so that's great management. Obviously, as you can see, I could have bought back Curry and Klay, because they're at low 80s. But since Dragic and Ginobili was playing very well, so I just decided to keep them in there. But no damage done. But you do see that Lanier and Anthony Davis, my big guys, so guys that usually tend to get tired really quickly, they are well rested for now because of the rotation I've been managing. And off they go, and Drummond gets a dunk here, and at this point we're about 60% into the second quarter. So I decided to call a timeout and just bring back in Klay and Curry, because although Ginobili and Dragic were playing great, they're starting to get tired. So I'm bringing in back Curry and Thompson, and by this point, so 60% has gone in the second quarter, I am once again rotated back to my starters: Curry, Rose, Klay, AD, and Lanier, with high 80s and high 70s in stamina for the big, high 80s for the wing. So that's great management. So at this point, if it's like that, I usually just let these starters play out the last 40% of the second quarter. So we flow through it and we just do what we gotta do. And you saw that they actually got the other team to call a lot of timeouts here because they were down by a lot. But that doesn't matter. If the other guy doesn't call a timeout, it doesn't matter. You can call these timeouts yourself. For this rotation to work, you only need to call about 7 timeouts, and you have 7. You actually have 8 that you could call because you get a new 20 again in the second half, right? So make sure you call your 20. So you don't need the other guy to call timeouts for this to work. But yes, my starter played the rest of the way, and we are at halftime. And if you look at the stamina and the minutes, so you see Lanier and AD both played 9 minutes in the first half here, and you must be like, oh, so everything times 2. No, that does not work that way. You do not get to multiply these minute numbers by 2 and get the minute numbers of the final game. It doesn't work that way because they started out the game with energy at 100, and you can see right now at the start of the third quarter with full rest, look at this. Nobody gets back to 100. For the guys who have already played, this is what they sit at. Their energy level remains relatively low because they already played in the first 2 quarters. So you cannot multiply the box score you see in the second half by 2 to get the final numbers. It doesn't work that way. I actually, in this specific game, I kind of rolled my big man starters a bit longer than usual. So they're already starting the third quarter at low mid 70s, and my wings are at low 80s, and Curry is exactly at 80, I guess. This looks bad, but that's actually okay because in the third quarter, you just need to get used to it. Make sure you call about 2 to 3 timeouts, so call extra timeouts. Remember, in the first quarter, I only call 1. In the second quarter, I aim to only maybe call 2. So in the third quarter, I could call 3 timeouts if I want, and I tend to do that because I play my starters extra in the first half, and you see they're still doing really good. And now about 20% of the third quarter has passed, and I like to call a timeout here. If computer calls it, if the other guy calls it, great, but if not, I'll call it, and I don't bring anyone in because this is still at that 20% gone juncture, so I still have 80% left of time left in the third quarter. So I just call this timeout to rest them, and you see AD's at 73, but Lanier, because he was played extra in the second quarter, he is very tired, so I bring in Ori, who is perfectly rested. So these rotations are not exactly set in a way. You gotta flow through it in game, but just keep these in mind. So at this point, at about the midway mark, almost like about 40%-ish, I have an extra timeout in the back pocket because the other team called a lot, so I'm just gonna call this one just because to get them extra rest. I'm not gonna bring anyone in, but you see Ori is back to 99. I'm keeping everybody's energy level higher than 70s. And the bench guys are really rested. If you see Ginobili, remember in the first half he came off the bench at 100 energy. Now he's at 88. So you gotta worry about Ginobili too, like your bench guy, your bench 6-man. So you gotta call the timeouts for him. And you see about 40% of the quarter is gone. I have kept the starters in there. They've been able to stay in because I've been calling, 3 timeouts and extra timeout because. But at this juncture, about 20% left in the third quarter, I'm taking them out. So I'm bringing in Dragic, I'm bringing in Ginobili, I'm bringing in Marley, and Horry is staying. So I got the 4 bench guys again. And once again, Lanier, who was taken out at about the 40% mark of the third quarter, I'm bringing him back in. He stands at 75. So Clay, Curry, and AD are all in the 60s now. So I took him out. And you see Anthony Davis is at 66. So that's perfect. We took him out before he reached 65, where his rating sort of went down. So I gotta take these guys out at 60 because at 60 turbo bar, they're pretty hard to use. They don't really play the same anymore. So I take them out. I rotate my bench guys in. So now we're back to that 4 bench guys, 1 starter lineup. So this is huge. You gotta have that starter that can play with the 4 bench guys. And Robert Horry is hype with that huge block. I'm gonna be calling my 3rd timeout in the 3rd quarter now just to rest them. And you see the bench guys, so my leading bench guys, Dragic, Ginobili, and Ori. The bench guys that I like to rotate in the 90s, so that's perfect. My starters are sitting at the low 70s. AD is cracking 69, so he's going to be back at 70. Lanier is at 77, so this sets me up great for playing them in the 4th again. So the bench guys gotta lead the way. So now I got 4 bench guys and 1 starter. So this is why you need money plays, because bench guys are not as good as starters, obviously. And when you're playing bench guys, you want to run money plays because money plays suits majority of your roster. It doesn't really matter, who you use. You're gonna get good looks in money plays. And Lanier, the starter guy that holds the bench, make sure you go through him. And he's holding it down throughout this whole game. You saw Lanier every time is so good for me when he's playing with the 4 other bench guys. So he's been helping out great. And this is now at the end of the third quarter. Ignore the score. I'm kicking their butt, I know. But I'm running maximum rotation here. You can see at the end of the third quarter, our starters, so Clay, starters that we care about. So Clay, Curry, and AD are all at the 70s. Lanier is also at 74. And at this point, this is really important. At the first 20% of the fourth quarter, I play 5 bench guys. You see, right now it's 5 bench guys. I got Dragic, Ginobili, Marley, Ori, and Valanciunas. So I play 5 bench at the initial part of the fourth quarter. So the first 20% is 5 bench guys. So that's not really a big deal, because if you rotate the team that I do, that means initially those guys already played a lot. Your starter guys already played a lot, so you should have a comfortable lead here. So these 5 bench guys shouldn't lose you the lead if they only play for 20% in the fourth. So 20% of the fourth is almost gone, so I take them out. I put back in some of the starters. So I've decided to put back Clay, who is at 81 now. Perfect. Remember, when we took him off, he was at 67. But because of our management, we're about to get him back to 81 in a very short span of time. So there's skill and a game within a game involved in this. That's skill. To be able to take Clay out with only 40% of the third quarter left and then bring him back in with 80% of the fourth quarter left at 81. Seriously, that's a skill. Look at AD is back to 79 now. Remember, he was at 66. Because of the way I rotate, they gave maximum rest. And this is super important. So you see AD 79, Clay is 81. Curry is actually not ready to come back yet at 79. It makes sense because I used Curry a lot in turboing because of his defense and the way he plays offense, so he's not coming back. Lanier is 77, so he could come back, but I like the way Ori is playing, so I'm keeping him in there. Dragic is just going to hold it down for now. Manu could come back, but I like the way Jalen is playing, so he stays. So we got Clay back, we got AD back, and Ori is going to stay. So we got 2 starters back now. And we're playing about 40% of the fourth quarter is gone. And at this point, I'm going to call a timeout. So 40% of the fourth quarter left. Make sure you call a timeout. Always go into the fourth quarter with 3 timeouts remaining. And after 40% of the fourth quarter is gone, call that timeout so you have 2 left. And after you call this timeout, bring back in your starters. So I'm bringing in Curry, who is at 83. Clay is now 78, AD 77, which is fine. Lanier, who has been playing a lot, if you think about it, he rotates in and out a lot, but he's been playing tons. But he's at 80. So with 60% of the fourth quarter left, I'm able to play 4 of my starters along with my leading 6-man, Ginobili. I actually want Ginobili to close the game. That's why I kind of said Jalen is not that important. That's why. So now I'm perfect. This is my closing lineup with Curry, Ginobili, Clay, AD, and Lanier. So 4 starters with my leading bench guys. I have literally rotated and managed this game perfectly with the way I call timeouts and when I call it, when I bring in guys and when I bring out guys. So with about 40% left in the fourth quarter, I'm going to call that final timeout. That's why I say keep 3 timeouts in the fourth quarter. Keep 3 timeouts left in the fourth quarter so you can call one to bring in guys and call this second last one just to rest your, I guess your depth lineup, whatever that is you want to close the fourth quarter with. And my depth lineup is Curry, Ginobili, AD, and Lanier. But here, I just decided to bring back in Rose because, you know, this is a blowout, right? I don't want Ginobili to get hurt because he tends to get hurt. So I took out Ginobili, I brought back in Rose. So it doesn't really matter. You see, Ginobili and Rose are at the exact same energy level. That's perfect management, by the way. I'm very proud of that. So I'm going to close it out with Rose just to rest Ginobili. So essentially, at the 40% mark, so about 40% of the fourth quarter left, I can play my entire starter group with tons of energy, or tons enough at the 70s. And see, you see Jalen Rose is so fresh. He's the leading guy and he's just running around everybody else because the computer guys, trust me, the other team's guys, they're much more tired than my team because I have rotated perfectly. And at this point, it's a blowout. I keep this last time out in case it's a close game, but this is a blowout. So then we win, ta-ta! And at the end of the fourth quarter, you see, I clicked this just to show you guys the energy with I think about 10 seconds left in the game. And you see Curry is a 71, Clay is a 66, AD 66, Lanier 69, and Jalen Rose 76. So that's perfect. Nobody's under 65, and I was able to finish the game this way. And obviously, it's a blowout, so the other team didn't end up calling their final 3 timeouts. I mean, if the other guy called just 1 extra timeout, I would have, you know, low 70s for everyone to close out the game, which is the goal. You want to close out the game with your starters or your best lineup. higher than 65, but ideally at the low 70s, depending on, you know, how many timeouts you'll call. But like I said, you don't need the other guy to call any timeouts. This strategy works because you have 7 timeouts yourself to call. Extra 20, right, in the second half. So you have 8 available timeouts. Just call 7 of them. You can rotate just like this, just fine. And I was able to play Anthony Davis 16 minutes, which is perfect. Lanier 14, Clay 14, Rose 13, Curry 13. Ori was at 9. I normally play Ori more, but since AD and Lanier was playing great, so I played them extra. But the point is, I was able to play my best player the most minutes, which is AD. I like to use him. Lanier also played 14. I believe Manu ended up playing about 12 to 11 minutes, so that's perfect for the leading back. He could have played more at the end. He could have played 13, but I just sat him and gave the extra minutes to Rose. So Rose played 13, Manu played 11. And yep, this is how you manage it. I'm still at the learning stages of this. I don't think I have perfected it, but this is what you need to be aware of. You gotta be able to close the game out with your best lineup at low 70s and nothing lower than 65. This is how you do it. If you got questions, I'm sure you do, leave it in the comment section. If this was confusing, please let me know. This is brand new to me. This is a brand new 2K17, you know, game within a game thing. It was never like this before. This is totally new. So I will have more videos come out on this. If you want to know the the rotation for your specific lineup, tweet me your lineup or leave it in the comment section on what your lineup is. I might make a video based on your lineup just to help you out, because I will go back to this showing different rotation tactics. Alright family, have a good weekend. Crazy tutorials coming out this week, and make sure you check out my man Money J2K for the badges grind service. It's awesome. Just talk to him. He will grind badges for you, because ain't nobody got time grinding Hall of Fame badges on their own. Alright, thanks for coming. I'll see all of you next time.